Hello guys, welcome back. This week we are going to talk about composition. Composition is kind of like the skeleton of our paintings. And so if you think about building an image as a body, we could imagine that composition is the bone structure and the tonal system could be the muscles, while colors could be the skin. Sometimes structure and skin in a painting can be quite symbiotic, and then sometimes, like in a body, there's some areas, like for example the elbow, where the bone and the skin are basically almost touching each other, while there's some other areas like the biceps or the glutes, where bones and skins are very far from each other. Anyway, thinking about composition, one of my top artists, my favorite artist of all, is Zoey Frank. Her work is very special, and for sure she has tremendous technical skills. She's a great painter, but what I really am attracted to is the way she thinks about composition. And I don't know her work as much as I should, and maybe one day I would really like to take a workshop with her. I've decided to pick a reference from Caro. She's a very beautiful and talented artist, and you should check her work out. She's an illustrator, and her drawings are very delicate and very sensitive. And the reference I had was beautiful but boring in a way, because it's a quite symmetrical pose where her face is frontal. I've decided basically to play on the fact that the image has this vertical axis, and this is bilateral, is also the way the human body is built, and it's what creates the idea in our human brains of symmetry. And oftentimes we correlate symmetry to the idea of perfection and harmony, and it all comes from geometry. Sometimes this can be linked to harmony, but when we think about it a little bit further, it's pretty clear to us that not even the human body is really symmetrical. Even the human body, the fact that we have two hands, they look symmetrical, but then of course we always prefer one side, and the way we grow and develop the body is always asymmetrical. And when we bring this idea of symmetry in our paintings, oftentimes what happens is that everything looks very static and kind of lifeless. A great example is PIERO della FRANCESCA. You can see the composition is perfectly symmetrical, a really archaic, monolithical figure that is just static and very geometrical. Now, just cut to the chase and look at Zoey Frank. This painting is the painting of the laundry room, and we can see that she is building her composition on a vertical axis, and that everything is basically almost perfectly balanced and symmetrical. But what she used to give us the idea of dynamic forces inside her painting is colors and tones. So look at how she decided to split, I think this is a wooden door, painted a dark side on the right and a lighter blue on the left. And then inside the square that is the window to the laundromat, you can see the window inside is perfectly symmetrical, but there is a little bit of a tonal shift in colors, warm and cool, and there's some shapes like the square, for example, that is present many times. And this gives us the idea of the three-dimensionality of a space, and it's really a fun image to look at, even if it's based on pretty solid vertical and horizontal lines. There is nothing gives us the sense of movement in space in the composition and in the drawing. But this is kind of what I thought. If we keep one figure, if we keep very static and frontal figure, how can we make this dynamic? Maybe we can play with the two parts, the right and left, and this bilateral idea. And instead of making them perfectly right, I decided to shift them a little bit and to treat one part and the other of the painting as two different paintings. Just almost to tell the viewer, hey, look, this is a painting and we can see one subject matter from different perspective, or we can, and because we start from a picture, the reference is a picture and not from real life, this is not really talking about real movement, it's just about talking about perception of an object, right? And if we treat two sides of the painting separately, but the subject is the same, it's inevitable that the brain will try to put them together, will recognize that as one subject and one person, but at the same time we'll have these two different parts that play some illusion and play against each other, and two parts that make unity not boring. Because it's exactly like when you have a puzzle. It's fun because you have to yourself to find pieces. And imagine a puzzle where maybe different pieces can also connect together. This week was the beginning of a different train of thought for me, and that is based on composition, but it brings us to the way we perceive images and reality. Another great painting from Zoey, an epic painting, is The Grapevines. And we can see here how she divided the image, the grapevine tree. She decided to treat this as different parts, completely different parts, but the subject is the same. And we can see that she painted this subject in different moments of the year. I think she used the same perspective, so the point of view doesn't really change. We can see on the top right panels that the house is from the same perspective. Maybe there is a little bit of a tiny switch. And she does this very beautifully in many other paintings where she uses an axis to repeat an object in a way that it looks like it's moving in space, or we're looking at it from different angles. A little bit like the Cubists did back in the days, but also putting together the impressionistic idea of looking at a subject through time. For example, let's think about Monet and the Cathedral. He painted in 3 different times of the year. And so this is very interesting when we start to mix all these concepts of time and space inside one subject and one image, because we create the sense of the perception that we have of something that is very far from what one picture of a subject can represent. And this is, I think, the beginning of trying to remove ourselves from just copying photography, and then trying to add the perception and the idea of time, which is something that we have with the introduction of videos, video art, where we can actually video the same subject through times. For example, I've seen some beautiful video still lifes where you can actually observe in 3 minutes the decay of a fruit from a beautiful plump fruit into almost basically dust. And that's amazing. I think that's something that a painting cannot do unless the painter decides to paint the subject through time. So for example, take a banana and you paint it when it's ripe, and you paint it when it's green, and you paint it when it's rotten. Then you put it together through composition so that the viewer can see it as one subject, but can also perceive the story of that object. So yeah, a little bit of a complex subject, but really interesting. And we're gonna try to paint this week and a few other weeks and think about this subject that is very close to me, the idea of representing time through painting. For example, we did a little bit of an experiment a few weeks ago when we painted the teapot, and we used the idea of atmosphere, and so the reduction of tones, to give the idea of something that is not in front of us but far away. Now what we really can work on is the idea of composition and see where that brings us to. And the work of Zoey Frank is a beautiful, incredible example of that. Every Sunday I will be releasing a new video, and it's gonna be a brand new painting. So I hope you enjoyed this week, and if you did, please like, share and subscribe to my channel, and maybe see you next Sunday again. Bye bye.